Alright, so moving on, in this lecture we'll be talking about some more aesthetical attributes. You can see that these two variables, they're very close together. So maybe if you want to give them a little bit of space to breathe in your inspector, you can add a space attribute. So this has to go in between the two variables that you want to add a space in. In this case, I'm going to add a space to my text variable, and you can see here how we can actually stack multiple attributes together. So I'm going to add a space attribute, and you have to pass in a parameter, which is basically the space in pixels that you're going to be adding to the inspector before he actually declares the my text field. So let's say 20 pixels. And here, both space and multi-line attributes will be applied to this string my text. And if you go back to Unity, you can see that in action. See, there's a 20 pixel space in here. You can also add headers to any field. Let's say that you want to divide your script in different spaces. So one space for floating point, integers or numbers, and one for strings. So let's say that I want to add a header just before I declare the skill value. So just type in header, and in parentheses you need to declare the actual message that will be displayed in the header. So let's say this is a space for number variables. And I'm going to also add a header before I declare the string. So another header here. This is a, oops, I wrote space here. This is a space, again, space. Why is that? For literal variables. There you go. So now this string my text has three different attributes. It has a multi-line attribute, has a space that's going to be added before its actual value, and has a header that's basically a text that's going to be displayed in bold before the variable is visible. So if you go back to Unity, you can see those headers here. I'm just gonna disable the camera so you can see. Alright, this is a space for number variables, so we have our number here. And here, this is a space for literal variables. And we have the text. One thing we did wrong, I guess, is that we added the space after the header. So maybe if we switch those, I'm going to add the space after the floating point variable, and then I'm going to add the header. So you can see that they are applied in order as they appear in the script. There we go. This looks nice. And if you notice here, if you in any component in Unity, if you click on the field and you rest your mouse for a little bit there, it should be a description. There should be a description popping in. There you go. Camera clears the screen to this color before rendering. So this is a description, and you can add this description to your custom variables as well. So any variable you have in your script, you can see that when I rest the mouse here, it doesn't show anything, but I can make something show up. And just so we get rid of this mess here, I'm going to define a public string, so a description, any variable that you want to define. And to this one, I'm going to add a tooltip, which is basically something that will show up when I rest the mouse on top of this variable. Actually, I'm gonna change its name to obscure variable. So actually the tooltip will have a job here, which is basically telling me what this variable do. Tooltip here, and you have to pass in, of course, the parameter, which is basically the hint that will be displayed. This is a description that shows up on top of your character, something like that. It doesn't even have to make any sense, right? We just want to explain what a tooltip do. It doesn't even have to make any sense, right? This is a random text that I put in. We just have to know how to use this tooltip and how does it show in Inspector. And if you go back to Unity, if you click on this obscure variable, if you rest your mouse a little bit in here, you can see that this is a description that shows up on top of your character, right? So that tooltip is actually displayed to you, and it's very, very useful to help your designers so that they can have a more precise description of the variable rather than just the name of the variable itself. So these are some more aesthetical attributes that you can use to make your inspector look prettier, I guess. And actually, to make them look even prettier, in the next section, we'll be starting to deal with custom inspectors, where we actually want to write a script that drives how the inspector of another script looks.